So I'm Jay. I'll be your educator for the next hour and a half. So we have over 40,000 objects, artifacts from the history of New York. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to look at a few of them today. This is a carriage. It's called the Beekman coach because it was owned by a very wealthy family, Beekman family. We have a lot of their artifacts. They're one of the founding families of the New York Historical Society, and they had a lot of money. Okay? They were actually one of the original Dutch families that settled New Amsterdam. There's about 20 of these made, and when George Washington got inaugurated, he actually got inaugurated right here in New York City. This was the first nation's capital. He actually rode in this carriage to his inauguration downtown, and it was driven by slaves.
As you can see in this painting, some colonists were pulling down George III's statue. This was during the time of the Revolutionary War, and you notice the different groups of people are around. And you can also see right here for the Indians, you see Native Americans in this corner and an African right there. They're not really the main focus of this painting because the Revolutionary War was really only helped the white people.
The object that we are discussing is the one in the back. It's camouflaged as a chair, but its main purpose was a toilet for richer families that owned slaves. And underneath the cushion is like a bedpan, which the slaves would have to go and clean out after every use. It's in comparison to this chair in the front that kind of has the pizza shape. The differences are the one in the front, the cushion's attached to the chair, so it's an actual chair, whereas that one, the cushion's removable.
In 1712, there was a law passed that every slave had to carry a lantern or a candle with them whenever they were out at dark, after sunfall, because it was dangerous outside and to resist any rebellion. And in 1712 was the first rebellion.
This coin is essentially a propaganda piece. It is an anti-slavery token, 1838 in copper. Pictured on the coin is a woman kind of kneeling bent over, and the caption reads, "Am I not a woman and a sister?"
Why they would write something like that on an anti-slavery token?
To show that slaves are humans too.
We know slavery ended in 1827, so slavery's actually ended in New York at that time, officially ended. Up until 1827, if you were a son of a slave, you would only be granted freedom until you're at the age of 21. So slavery still technically existed.
This was Dred Scott. He was born to Virginian slave parents, and he sued the Union to get his freedom. Well, this was in 1747, I believe. Yes. And after about a decade of appeals, reappeals, it finally went to the Supreme Court, and they finally ruled that African Americans, whether slaves or free, could not be citizens of the U.S. and therefore could not sue. This incited outrage and was one of the things leading to Lincoln's election. It's important when you look at the portrait to see that he's very well dressed. Obviously he has money because he was able to commission this portrait to be painted. And he was obviously trying to present himself as a citizen worthy of respect by other people. You can see by the lines in his forehead that he's frustrated, he's irritated, and of course being not granted the rights or even being able to be called a citizen of the US, that's enough to annoy anyone.
On behalf of the Consul General, I'd like to welcome you to the South African Consulate General. the education system in South Africa and the history of South Africa is very interesting, which I'm sure you've studied as well and will study. But education has been one of the key areas as that part of the change that has taken place in South Africa. It's the access to quality education. Now, the transformation that has taken place in South Africa as well, if you look at our history, you've had people going to segregated schools that was part of the apartheid system. If you were a young African boy or girl, you would go to a school that was segregated. And so you had this inequality in our history. Since 1994, we have a system where we're trying to address some of these inequalities. You have integrated schools for the first time. You have access now to better education. And so the whole education system in South Africa is transforming. And you find that the types of schools you have, in terms of your question as well, is what Tommy identified. You've got your public schools, you have your private schools, and your semi-private schools. And the combination of all of that is where people access educational opportunity.